Welcome back to another episode of Kombat Cast, except this time you actually learned something. So I want to start this video by saying that everybody's neutral, depending on which character you pick, is going to be different. Some characters have better, some characters have worse neutral, and it is a matter of your character's buttons, not entirely just 100% based on your skill. Obviously, your skill is going to have a major factor to play, but if your character kind of lacks in certain positions, then that could be why maybe your neutral isn't as good as you feel like it should be. Or it could just be simply that you don't know what you're doing and you need to learn about it. So yeah, for this video, I'm going to be teaching y'all how to play neutral. In Mortal Kombat, neutral is very different than like a normal fighting game. So I'll compare it to Street Fighter. In like Street Fighter, what you're doing is you're sitting in this sort of range, throwing out buttons buffered into a special move because, you're crouching. Like, for us, a down 4 is just a poke. In Street Fighter, that's going to launch. That's going to be a combo starter. And they typically have really long range. So you're throwing out a button from here, buffered into a special move that can give you a combo. And if it hits, you get a combo. If it whiffs, you can now maybe get whiff punished. So it's like you're throwing out singular buttons, hoping to make contact, but if you whiff and your opponent notices that you whiff, they can get a whiff punish. That's footsies in neutral in Street Fighter. This game is very different. So I heard Sonic Fox explain recently the two different ways to play Mortal Kombat, and I think he summed it up perfectly. So I think I'm just gonna reference that real quick. So he broke it up into two different types of positioning. There's small MK, it was what he said, which is right here, and all your buttons, your pokes, how good they are, all that stuff is that's going to be small MK when you're right up in their face. Big MK is when you're here and what your buttons can do from this position. So using Raiden as the example, Raiden's small MK is fantastic because you have this string, which is +1. He's got pokes that reach really far. Down 4 is an absurd button coming out at 11 frames that reaches unbelievably far. Down 1 has massive range with a 7-frame low poke. He's got tons of frame advantage. He has tons of different options he has tons of different staggers. So the first bit of neutral that I'm going to teach you is this. So this is something that is universal to all characters, but you see Raiden do it the most. Where you go 1, 2, and now you're +1. Instead of trying to enforce frame advantage from this, you can do a backdash and try and bait out a button. So you're going to bait out the down 1, backdash it, they're going to whiff your down 1, and then you're going to whiff punish them with forward 2. So that's going to be the very first bit of neutral that you're doing in your small MK. Is going to be right here. All that sort of stuff is going to be... You can do it off of any frame advantage as well, because you can do stand 2, which is +3. If you keep on doing stand 2 and they're getting sick of you doing this, like you do stand 2 throw, if they're getting sick of that, they're gonna throw out a down 1 to take their turn back, in which case you just backdash them and get a full punish. So it's all gonna depend on mixing your opponent up on what buttons you're doing in this range. So if you're consistently doing this every single time, what they're gonna do is they're gonna back up, and then your forward 2 is gonna whiff, and then they're gonna whiff punish you. There's that little neutral. Because you have to really mix it up. If you're doing the same thing over and over and over again, your opponent's going to get used to it, and then they're going to start reading it, getting their neutral out, and then they're going to whiff punish you. So if you do stuff like this, and then you do down 1, and they get caught by it, then it's still your turn. Or if you notice they keep on blocking, you can throw out the full string. There's just so many different options that you can do, and you never want to stay into a routine, because the minute you get into a routine and your opponent starts figuring out that routine, you're gonna lose. So that's pretty much that's gonna be the most basic form of this one, where you just throw out different buttons. You do throws a lot. You do different pokes. You do poke special, which is what Raiden is really good at. His small MK is good now. His small MK used to be the best in the game because he had this poke special, which was a safe launcher that dealt massive chip damage. Since that got nerfed, he's kind of just in this range. He's no better than majority of the roster. He's really good at it, but he's no better than everybody he once was. Now even the cameo that you pick is gonna matter, because if you have certain cameos that give you throws like Jade does, look at the distance that you're at. This is not Raiden's distance. You do not want to be here as Raiden. So it really picking your cameo to figure out what your throw is gonna be is pretty damn good because like Raiden's back throw is pretty good because you can dash and put yourself in this range, which is an okay range for Raiden. It's not fantastic, but it works. He works from this range because he can kind of harass you with a forward two and down fours. But other than those two buttons, which can easily just be walked back, he's not gonna do fantastic at that range. So you really want like a character who is gonna with depending on your character's buttons, you're gonna want to the cameo choice throw actually matters quite significantly because you want the throw to put you in a range that you succeed in. But where like how Raiden has this, it's just he's so far away that I'm now just trying to run in while the opponent's running away, throwing projectiles at me. So it's kind of not great. So you want to pick a cameo that like does really good. That was half of the reason why I thought Movado was such a good cameo for Raiden because the throw leaves him right point blank, which is really good for him. Now moving on to the big MK, which is going to be where the majority of your footsies come from, is going to be here. Now, footsies are very unique in this game because when you're throwing buttons out, you're not throwing down a down four into a buffered like that. You're not doing that because that's not going to combo. So what you do is you throw out down fours just so that you can like get this hit and then you can move in and start enforcing your small MK. That's how Raiden wants to play it. But you can also be throwing these buttons out as baits, so you can try and bait out a down four and intentionally whiff it, and then get your opponent to try and move in with their button, in which case you back up and start whiff punishing them. So I'll do a little, I'll show you a little example of that. So watch, so if I do something like this, where if I throw out a down four, and my opponent is like, ooh, I can get that, I can get in now. So watch, if I do this, and it's, let's pretend that I'm trying to bait him. So watch, you can go like this. See? Full on get a whiff punish yourself. So you can do little baits. You can even do you make sure that you want to pick a button or a string that is really good on recovery. So like Raiden's stand 2 allows me to move back. Raiden's 2-4, I can move back in time. I misspaced it, but like 2-4, you know, like throw some out like this. Or you can like do little, another thing you can do is like throw out something that looks like you're going to be doing a projectile. So stand 2 has that little lightning burst. And Raiden, whenever he calls up his lightning bolt, it has that little lightning burst as well. So it's like, you can do this where you do stand 2 to try and bait out like a projectile. And then they're watching you do stand 2, so they're just sitting there blocking. And then you can throw a projectile, get a little chip damage. Stuff like that is really good. So yeah, but then the same sort of deal where you keep on doing this, and now your opponent's getting sick of it. They're like, screw it, I'm going to move in, right? Read that. So that's the sort of like essence of footsies in this game, is just really trying to throw out buttons that are going to get you a little confirm. If you can't throw out any buttons that are going to get you a confirm, then you just kind of sit in this range watching your opponent. It's all reaction based. So if your opponent, like let's say Kung Lao comes in to do a down 4, he does dash in, you know he's now going to do a button. So you watch him do that dash in, you dash back. Because now he wants to put himself at this range. And if your opponent is better than you at this range, you kind of are going to want to stay out of that range. So when he dashes in, you're going to want to go, oop, back dash, and then watch him do a button. Maybe he throws out like a down 1 or something. Then he goes like this, you know, dash in down 1. But since you backdashed, you made his down 1 whiff, now you can punish with your own button. This is what I'm talking about by your character. It really depends on how good your character's buttons are to show how good your neutral is going to be. Because Raiden is really good at whiff punishing low pokes because he has a mid. He has a pretty far-reaching mid, right? But then you have somebody like Ashra who has that really far-reaching strike that goes really, like, has a really good distance, but it's a high. So if Raiden's over here throwing out something like this, that high is going to go straight over her. So using something like a mid, which is where Raiden's forward 2 comes in, is really necessary because if people are dashing in to do it like a down 4, like Raiden does that all the time. Normally, this is very safe poke because, you know, most people don't have that mid that is really fast, really far-reaching. So Raiden could just really go, If it whiffs, so what? You're pretty safe. Now, this is where I bring in Chameleon. Because Chameleon is crazy good for whiff punishes because of Glaive. So glaive is mid, gives you a full combo on launch, and it's plus on block. So it's like, let's say that Raiden is like running in trying to do these down fours, and you just backdash it and notice he does the down four. Ooh, glaive, and now you can get a full punish. You know? Whereas normally you kind of have to throw out something much slower to get like a full confirm, like Raiden's forward 4, or I mean his forward 2 or his forward 4, which, you know, it works, but it's kind of slow. It's starting up at 18 frames and it's got major distance. Yeah, Jade is going to be a little bit slower, but it goes full screen for mid. So you can absolutely do it on reaction. Because if you notice, Raiden's recovery frames are 26. So you can throw out Jade on a read even. You can do backdash Jade, and then while I'm whiffing this, boom, now I'm going to get full combo punished. So really, to sum it up, it's all just going to be dependent on your reactions. If you're sitting in this range, watching your opponent, waiting for them to throw out a button so that then you can get that quick punish, that's what's going to really do a lot. If you're sitting there reacting to it, throwing out those little baits, making sure that you have your small MK down on lock, because like I said previously, that is a part of neutral. The little frame advantage into backdash, that's neutral, because you're trying to bait out your opponent to do a button that you want to make whiff. If you can make your opponent whiff a button and then get your punish, that's footsies. That's neutral right there. That's what you want to do. But yeah, relatively short video. It's pretty simple. It's all just going to be dependent on how your character plays and your character's buttons. You're going to want to definitely lab it out. Figure out what buttons are really good for whiff punishing. You got those far-reaching, good range buttons. You want to figure out if they can punish certain low pokes and stuff like that. Really just take it into the lab so that you can figure it out. And yeah, that's really going to be about it. So thank you for watching this far into the video.